more rather than less. So what does it mean to feel more? And I mean like as sensation coming through the body, not just trying to figure out mentally what you're emotionally feeling. So as you start to allow for more of the input or the information coming from your body to your mind, right? To your brain and then to your mind, right? That's like and a feeling of kind of like exhaling, like of and that's a different part of your nervous system. So you're just trying to allow here for a second. Maybe you've been running around this morning doing all sorts of stuff, so your mind's already got involved in the complexity of ordinary living, right? Ordinary living. One of the things that One of the ways in which disability is quite a teacher is, regardless of your disability, is it has a tendency to reveal that things that you thought were maybe really simple were actually quite complicated, right? Ordinary living, if we're honest about it, has got a lot of different layers to it, right? Thank God we don't have to be aware of everything. In a way, I think that ordinary living is similar to you know, like digesting food. I mean, thank goodness I don't have to be aware of the peristalsis of food going through my intestine, right? Like I don't have to be that aware. And there's a level at which ordinary living becomes a habit and becomes rote. And that is both a good and a bad thing, right? So not bad thing, but like you want to, part of what a yoga practice does and a centering part of your practice does is tries to refresh on what seems simple, right? So soften your jaw and the skin on your face, and maybe, like around the eyes and the skin on the forehead. And there's like often when you start to do that, you might have revealed that you didn't sleep great last night or who knows what, right? But and so your lips are together, teeth slightly apart. There's a depth to you, and sometimes you can feel it better when you let your mouth be like a cave. Because remember, your mouth is right at the top of your spine. So you're continuing this process of landing, which landing into your body is not just a thought. It actually takes some time. There are some tricks like softening the organs of perception, paying more attention to your exhale, some things that get you there faster. And hopefully all the times you centered in classes before are helping you go faster through a whole bunch of levels that are from a distance ordinary, but they're actually extraordinary. We are complex machines that are organically aware and alive. So now start to layer in. So hopefully whatever you're going to get of the quiet part of you today, and that can always change, right? And deepen. But now I want you to start feeling and bringing more organization to how you're sitting, to your effort. So there's I just went through a training last week where I kept trying to emphasize that all yoga poses begin and end in the sensation of relief or the sensation of emptiness. And so you're taking this emptiness and you're starting to feel more. So press more through your feet or just very slightly, like start to locate, bring some discipline into that quiet underbelly of your experience. And then feel your sitting bones. And so I want you to get on a very subtle level that as you hit down through your sitting bones and feel your feet, there's an opportunity to rise up. So you're beginning to move in multiple directions because of your effort, or it's becoming more aware of because of your effort. So as you hit down through the sitting bones and feel length from the inner groin to the inner knee down to the inner heel, you keep elongating and lengthening up. And now you can go in a vertical line, but you can also go horizontally. So broaden across your collarbones, but across your back ribs too. And as you do, broaden across your sacrum and broaden, spread your sitting bones a little bit, and even try to spread the skin on the base of each heel, right? So you've got a horizontal extension as well as a vertical one. So you're going down, up, and expanding. Balance your head over your neck, right? So you're trying to, that there's a quietness that comes with focused balance. And you're trying to do all of this as you sit up, which seems ordinary, but there's a lot to it. Bring your hands into prayer if you can, and if it keeps you on balance, right? I'm going to keep my hands on my forearms on the table because I want to balance better today, right? So I'm going to try to use the stability. But the good thing about having your hands in prayer is that you can now find the midline, right? So as you feel connected at the heel of your hands and up through the palms, right? Let it bisect the seam right down the center of your nose. Keep softening the inside of the mouth. Feel where each sitting bone, feel where each foot is, each side of the breastbone. Hit down, rise up, expand horizontally, keep them softened on the inside of the mouth, around the temples. Be engaged into structure, in maintaining structure, but that effort needs to not disrupt the inward quietness. Everything is wonderfully complex and simple. Let go of your day and prepare your mind to do yoga. As your mind wanes, which it always does, repose. Reinvigorate clarity of mind by feeling through your body. Good. And then release. Put your hands down to your thighs, palms up. Take your sternum up towards your chin down and over your sternum. So this heightens the attention and the clarity in your rib cage and spine, this position. Right? And again, the long line of yogis think that this is the most powerful way to breathe, is in a position like this. Keep exploring why that would be true, how that is true. Raise your head up with closed eyes. Open your eyes. So this idea that even one of the wonderful things, the goal of a yoga pose is not to become aware of every aspect of what's complex. I hope you just got in that centering that sitting up is actually pretty complicated, right? There's a whole bunch of dimension to it. And so part of what an asana is trying to do is help you become aware of more threads in the fabric of even just sitting, without thinking that you have to be in control and in charge of all the threads. Right? This is why you practice. If you think a yoga pose, if you get overwhelmed by its complexity, that's because you're trying to be in charge of it all. And so awareness is one step, practice is the essential step. Because you know how cool your brain is? It's going to be able, through practice, to be simultaneously aware of an incredible amount of complexity without you having to be directly aware of it, just like your digestion. Right? There are chemical reactions going on in your gut that are unbelievably complex, and you don't have to be aware of them, right? But the appreciation of the complexity is part of the simplicity, right? So sit up straight and tall again. So although I think I can feel my whole body today, I'm going to take some time to be aware of connections, and I want you to be aware of connections because I'm teaching the class, right? Of connections that I want to practice. So I'm putting my hands, I'll put my hands on my thighs. I've been using a table a lot lately, but a lot of you don't have a table, right? So I'm gonna sit, so I'm gonna, just because I have longer arms and maybe some of you do, I'm gonna put my wrist against my knees, or they could be your hands. But I want to make sure that instead of falling back on my sitting bones, I want to be slightly forward. So whatever it does, what it means for you to be slightly forward on your sitting bones, good. And the fact that you can be aware of the front or back of your sitting bones, like show your mind that, come forward a little bit. Your mind has to be shown. It's kind of the last thing to the party, right? Your brain's doing all of this, and then go behind. And you can kind of see why you wouldn't want to do a lot of yoga as you lean back a little bit. Like this is not a place you'd want to lift weights from, right? Because you'd be behind the balance point, and then all the stress would go to the muscles on your arms, right? So then come forward on the front edge of your sitting bones, right? So I hope awareness is changing your legs. I hope you can notice that. Remember, there's more happening in your poses than you know, right? So again, the mind learns by contrast. So I'm going to go behind it again and watch the collapse, right? And then come forward and use the momentum to feel my legs more, especially those of us that are paralyzed, right? You've got to get way more aware of how gravity changes things so you can follow it. So I'm on the inner edge of my sitting bones. The problem when I come slightly forward is I tend to collapse the space between my sternum and between my pubis bone and my sternum. So as I'm a little bit forward on my sitting bones, I want to hit down through my heels and lengthen the space between my pubis bone and my sternum. So I'm connecting the forward, slightly more leaning into my life of being on the front edge of my sitting bones with kind of a counterintuitive or opposite action of lengthening here without falling back as I lengthen here. All this is actually going on every time you sit up straight and tall, right? And so I want you to feel that difference. And even if it's just words right now, and you kind of going, what, right? Yeah, just like know that all this is part of what your brain is processing. So on the take an inhalation, on the exhalation, I want you to extend more down through your heels and lift more up through the chest. Good, and then release. So there's a much more profound balance between the front and the back body than most of us realize. And believe me, I've been doing this for 30 years and I'm still learning about it, right? So it's like everything is wonderfully complex, right? But that's not intimidating, that's hopeful, right? So I want to come on the front edge of my sitting bones and I want to feel where my feet are, my heels are. But as I come forward, I want to still lengthen, right? But as I lengthen the space between my pubis bone and my sternum, I want to drop my shoulder blades down. Okay, now hopefully you've been doing yoga long enough with me that now as soon as you drop your shoulder blades down, as you're lengthening from here to here and dropping the shoulder blades are slightly spreading, right? That habit's already built into your body. like your digestion of your food, like that you have been practicing enough where some of these things happen more fully without you having to be aware of it. Good. And then release. I know this seems like little actions, right? And I'm asking you to really, really, I would never teach traditional students like this because it's too hard. And then stretch your arms down by your sides. So now I've got a different set of inputs. Now for me, as soon as I stretch down through my sides, I fall back on the back side of my sitting bones. So for me, that means I got to make a choice. If I'm going to stretch my arms, I'm not going to be able to be on the front side of my sitting bones. Okay. So I had to give something up, right? And most of you maybe don't. If you're able to stretch down through your arms and come on the front of your sitting bones, keep making space between the pubic bone and the sternum, right? But now I want to practice how to bring my tricep and bicep towards the bone of my upper arm while broadening across my chest. Now, when you do that, does anyone feel how your inner edge of your shoulder blades have to engage? Right? So there you have the top part of an asana. Now use that. So this tricep, bicep hitting back, stretching down, shoulder blades going down, right? Now use that action and follow it from the inner groin to the inner heel. Broaden across the collarbones. Feel the energy of the shoulder blades, and now connect the energy of the shoulder blades to the sitting bones. Very inward, I'm asking you to be. This is the hardest part of the class, right? Is actually bringing more of this online. And now for those of you that can, quote, feel your feet, spread the soles of your feet, right? Those of you that can't have to more engage from the inner groin to the inner knee and down to the inner heel. And I'm doing this and being off balance. I'm falling backwards, so I know it's not quite as good. Good, and then release. So now I'm going to come forward, right? And I'm going to now be more clearly on the front side of my sitting bones, right? And I'm going to repeat a lot of these instructions, right? So I'm going to feel my sitting bones, my feet. I'm going to lift my chest. I'm going to broaden across my collarbones. Drop my energy in my shoulder blades. Feel a balance between the front and back body. If I want to push too much awareness empty into my back body, drop your chin. See how your back, when your chin drops down, more awareness goes out that way through the back body? Yeah, yep, right? So I'm going to know that I don't want that. I'm going to rise, broaden, be on the front edge of my chin. I'm leaning pretty far forward, right? So like I'm really wanting to feel the difference between here and here in relationship to a dynamic sensation that I want to go through my legs to start my week. I want my legs to be lit all week. So I'm going to take some time here. So once I get all these things active, I'm going to take a few breaths to mark my whole body. Use my breath to actually go into the empty spaces of me too and light them up. Well, actually, I don't know if it lights them up. I don't know what the right word is. Makes me aware of them. Mm-hmm. Good, and then release, come on back. I've always thought that there was an interesting double entendre to B.K. Iyengar's book, Light on Yoga. Like he's shining a light on yoga, and it's light on yoga, right? All right, so inhale and take your left arm up. So we're just going to add that waking up feeling of twist, but I want that expansion in your low back, which you know, for weeks I've been emphasizing that a lot, that you want space in your low back if you sit a lot, right? Because you're going to constantly compress there. And so I want you to don't worry about how far you twist. Inhale, lift up, exhale, revolve. Don't forget, as you're kind of using more effort to twist, don't forget the sensations of centering as you twist. Good. And then come on back to silence. I mean, to center. That's a double interesting slip. It's the energy at the beginning of centering, which will help you become more non-violent in your poses. Okay. It's if you keep the energy of centering in your action. Inhale, take the other arm up. Exhale, revolve. So my mind is going to want to get win over here, right? And that can happen, right? But I also need to keep the energy of centering as I twist here. Inhale, lift up, exhale, revolve. So then I start to investigate, like, how can I make, if I only think about twisting, right, I lose a lot of my possibility, right? I got to feel good and then release. Or if I only think about, or I set my focus simply on how far or how hard I'm twisting, I actually limit my possibilities, right? All right, so come forward again. Right away, I want you to exhale down into the bottoms of your feet. Right, so I'm coming forward on gravity more. Now I want you to ground. So the sensation of grounding is a precondition of any kind of relief that you're ever going to experience, right? In my opinion, at least. And so I'm exhaling, and then on inhalation, I'm lifting my chest, right? And I'm, instead of thinking about how far my head goes back, I'm thinking about how far my chest can come forward. And as my chest comes forward, and my shoulder blades drop, I connect it to my sitting bones. I connect it to my feet. And now that I've got a more full sense of grounding, I start to effort the pose more. So now I'm going to broaden across the shoulder blades. I'm going to push more weight down in my forearms. I'm going to try to lift. And now at the very end, I'm going to feel the center of my chest, lengthen the whole front part of my neck, lengthen the back part of my neck, and look up, turn my head up. But I'm doing it from way down low. Good, and then release. So, in order to access, we're going to do the same thing again in a second. In order to access what I just said, the way down low in the center of my chest when I tip my head back, I'm curious about what you have to do in order to do that. So come forward again. So right away, I'm making sure that I'm forward, but I'm also spreading horizontally across my sacrum, between my shoulder blades, before I start to really, really engage. Is anyone else having a very hard time hearing me? Okay, someone just, I think, emailed me. Joanne. Okay, I don't know who that is. All right, so broaden across the sacrum, lift the sternum up, drop the shoulder blades. Okay, so I'm trying to figure out how to fill my vessel where it's more simple. Because we're going to introduce movement and stuff and rhythm. So I'm taking time. And now I'm going to try to, as I'm forward, I'm going to try to go from here, the center of the chest, lengthen the front, right? But in order to find the center of the chest, I have to find my sitting bones. So I'm doing a version of a back bend. Good, and then release. And then inhale, take your left arm up, exhale, revolve. Take the arm behind you. So we're just twisting right after your back bend. So we keep the too much fatigue out of the low back. Inhale, lift up, exhale, revolve. Good. And then release. Because that was actually a long hold. Inhale, lift up. Other arm, exhale. Go to the other side. So we're just making sure that we keep the spine feeling and moving in multiple directions. Lift under the collarbones, roll the shoulders back. Okay, good. And then release. So I want you to I want to do some crisscross. The little kid in me says crisscross applesauce, right? But I want to take my right hand or my left hand on my left knee, right? Press that back while pressing down through my right foot, right? So I'm hitting back and pressing forward, right? Good, and then do it the other way. So I'm going to hit back on my right knee, press down with my left foot. In fact, I like doing it this. I'm going to do it this way. So as I'm hitting back with my right hand into my knee, I'm hooking my heel of my hand on my right above my left knee and pushing that forward. And then releasing and changing. So now I'm doing it the other way. And then I'm going this. So I'm going to go back and forth on my own pelvis, right? Creating a rhythm. And I'm now adding my shoulders, as you can see, right? So I'm kind of like doing a kind of stroll, right? Where maybe if I were walking, maybe this is how I'd have to stroll if my limbs weighed 2,000 pounds or I was Frankenstein or something, right? Like I'm going back and forth, like trying to make a rhythm. And so as I'm doing this a little bit longer, a while, can you tell which side you do better as you're going this way? My back does not do as well this way as it does this way, right? So I need to be more aware as I turn this way of what my spine is doing, right? So I'm trying to get it so these are approaching similar sensations, but they don't exactly, right? Good, and then release. So I want to light up my feet, okay? So if you can, right? And even if you don't even have feet there, you still can extend that way. But I want you to take one foot and put it on top of the other, right? And I can't exactly feel this, but so if you didn't have your full limb there, you would be putting one femur bone kind of across the midline a little bit, okay? And just press down. So now you're getting contact on the top and bottom of your foot, right? If you can't do that, see, I can't do that very well. I'm going to lift my leg up and try to grab it on the top and bottom of my foot. So if you can do this, do this. If you can't, cross over. And if you only want to do it from your knee up and just make awareness from each side, do that. So what I want is to differentiate the top and bottom of my foot, right? So I'm creating, although I'm paralyzed and quote, can't feel this, I'm trying to be aware of what I feel on the top of my foot and the bottom of my foot. And lift my chest. Good, and then I'm going to switch. And if you can't lift your leg up, right, then feel the top and bottom of your foot. That's why I put the other foot on top of it, right? So again, I'm trying to differentiate the top, and I'm trying to get my mind to pay attention to what it takes for granted, right? That I have a top and bottom of my foot. So I'm just feeling that. Okay. And then putting my feet back down. And then I know it sounds crazy, but the same thing is true with your hands and with your arms. Pay attention, figure out how to be more aware of both sides of your arm, right? Both sides of your hand. I know these things seem stupid, But I'm telling you, they create freedom, right? When you start to recognize it, wait, I've been narrowing my field of what I am. My mind has been cutting me into pieces, right? So I'm feeling both. Now I'm going to try to be aware of the underside and top side of my arm. So in order for me to be more aware of up here and down here, guess what I got to do? I got to connect my shoulder blade more. Like, holy crimes. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to go top and bottom of my hand. And like, dang, top and bottom of my arm, of my forearm, top and bottom of my bicep and tricep, right? And then I'm going to try to feel both the underside of my arm and the top side of my arm, right? And then go the other way, the underside of my arm and the top side of my arm. Now, in order for me to keep this in my awareness, I'm going to have to go forward on my sitting bones. If I'm back here, it's just my mind trying to do it. If I actually connect myself, right, I can actually feel more. So now take both arms, right, and go like, whoa. So I have a hard time balancing. Like I have to fall back on my sitting bones in order to balance both my arms, right? So this for me is not as yogic as doing one arm at a time and coming forward. So show yourself, but your balance is better than mine probably. So I'm having, for those of you that don't have as good balance in your sitting bones, so I have a harder time on this side because of my scoliosis. So I'm having to do this, right? Feeling all the spaces. And then I'm going to go back to all of them, underside, top side. Now I'm going to add back body awareness and front body awareness. Notice maybe your inside of your mouth is tightening because your mind's not used to having so many things it's supposed to be aware of. Soften your jaw on the inside of your mouth. Take a couple of breaths. Be in space. Good, and then release. So now take your left arm off to the side, bring it across the midline, right? I'm gonna hold it, right? And ground my shoulder blade down, okay? And feel that. So I'm trying to pull it a little bit across the midline so I get more of a stretch, a physical stretch on the back side of my shoulder blade. And now I'm gonna lift my chest, and as that happens, I'm gonna drop my shoulder blade. And as I do, I'm gonna feel my sitting bones and extend from my inner groin to my inner heel, right? So I'm connecting top and bottom, and then release. Then I'm gonna do it the other way. I'm gonna take this arm, bring it across, get a physical stretch across my back body. I've got my shoulder blade. I'm gonna lift my sternum, and as soon as I lift my sternum and drop my shoulder blades, I'm gonna hit down through each sitting bone and extend down through each foot. So I'm connecting top and bottom. Good, and then release. Now, the thing about yoga and becoming more aware of stuff like this is that there's no such thing as a one-way street in yoga, in a yoga pose. So this time, instead of doing it from here, from my upper body to my lower body, I'm gonna try to do it from my lower body to my upper body. So I'm gonna reverse the way that was done. So I'm gonna feel my sitting bones and my feet, right? From there, I'm gonna take up my arm, take up your left arm, right? So I'm going, and then I'm gonna grab, but I'm gonna keep more aware of my sitting bones and length from my pubic bone to my sternum, and then pull it across. And then as I drop my shoulder blade, there's an opportunity to feel your sitting bones more. Remember, you're going in both directions now. You're going down and up and down, right? And breathing. And trying to make even more of a stretch. Good, and then release. So the more you inhabit your full body in something like that, the better you can make the stretch on the muscle, right? So now we're gonna go the other way. So I'm gonna feel my sitting bones in my feet, right? I'm gonna then go from there to my lifted chest. Then I'm gonna grab my arm, pull it across. So the emphasis now is not from my upper arm down, but from my lower body up. As soon as I connect my lower body, my shoulder blade wants to drop, right? Lift my sternum, Pull it across. Breathe. Good, and then release. Take both arms up over your head. Hit down through your sitting bones. Down through your feet. Go beyond your fingertips. Good, and then release. So now inhale and take your left arm up and bring it back down your body. Right, lengthen from here to here. Right, now I'm back on my sitting bones because I can't balance, so I have to choose, unfortunately, to be off my front edge of my sitting bones. Hopefully you don't have to. This going up, shoulder blade going down, elbow tip trying to hit the ceiling. Good, and then release. Take the other arm up, bring it down. So we're playing with different arm positions in relationship to a practice that traveled through the torso, down to the legs, right? So you're rotating and lifting the sternum, elbow tip towards the ceiling. Good, and then release. So now take your left arm behind your back. So now I like this because I can balance myself, right? So I can put my back of my hand into my spine and keep me forward, right? Because the more, if you don't do that and let your spine fall backwards, notice how different your yoga pose is, right? So now I'm putting my spine forward. I want to open from here to here. But now, as I'm opening from the center of the chest up to elbow tip, that I'm going to call that my left arm. I want to press down through my right foot. I want to balance out the pose. There's a lot of drama going up here in my left shoulder, right? And I'm trying to stay equally distributed through my whole body. Good, and then release. And then take the other arm behind you. So, right, and again, I don't have the same balance issues on this side, so, but I'm gonna like open and roll the shoulder back, so you can see the difference in the writing on my chest, right? Right, which one feels more like yoga, right? Oh yeah, my spine. So I'm gonna open, broaden from here to here, hit down through my sitting bones, rise up through the center of my chest. As I open from my right center of my chest to my right shoulder, I'm going to press down through my left sitting bone and left foot. And I'm going to breathe. And I'm going to inhale and take the left arm up. Exhale it down, turn it towards the midline. And then I'm going to take that down. I'm going to inhale and go like this. Down. Lengthen. Good. And then I'm going to take the left arm behind me. Again, this is changing in the upper body, but I want you to be working your legs, right? Not just working your upper body. Good. And then the other side. So the idea of different arm positions in relationship to your legs. Good. And then release. Take the left arm up. Down. Now I'm going to change your brain, right? Take this arm back around behind you. Get it open, feeling your legs. Release. Inhale, take this up. Hit down. Take it behind you. Find your base, good, and then release. We're gonna do that again. Inhale up, but now really hit down to the floor. Really hit down to the floor. For God's sakes, if that doesn't straighten your arm up, for God's sakes, you're not doing yoga, right? We've been setting this up the whole time. And then behind you, feel the change. Inhale up, hit down, go behind your back. Now I want you to notice the difference. We're going to add another layer in between. Take the first side up, take it down. So you're doing headstand. right? And then you're going to shoulder stand. All this to feel your legs. And then release. Now inhale, take the other stand up. Down. Behind. All the time, keeping alertness in your spine, and then release. So now you're going to take both arms up, bring them in, right? Now I'm really going to try to engage and lengthen from here to here. I'm really going to try to take my shoulder blades down, make more space between my ears and my shoulders. I'm going to feel like I'm pushing my whole forearm against the ceiling. And I'm going to really try to work my sitting bones and extend from the inner groin to the inner knee down to the inner heel. Breathe. Good. And then release. Take both arms behind you. Right? So lift your chest, roll the shoulders, blades down, broaden across the chest. Now, what's weird is I want you to try, even though I can't physically do it, I want you to be on the front edge of your sitting bones, which I can't do, and then roll the inner head of your femur bones in and down, right? So I'm trying to get this, let your shoulders roll forward, right? So as soon as I start to open here, I want you to ground the inside edge of your groin down towards your base, right? And I want you to get how this action can go together, how as this opens, there's an opportunity to extend down from the inner upper thigh. This is Tadasana, right? But it's also going to be an integral part of shoulder stand, right? And then release. Arms down at your sides. Inhale, take the left arm up. Exhale, bring it down, rotate it in. Down. Inhale, take the other arm up. Bring it down, right? Take the arm down, bring it behind your back, open, right? Take behind your back, open. So we're going with different relationships to the center of the chest and our legs. And then release. Okay, so now take both arms up. Both arms like this. Lengthen, drop the shoulders away from the ears. Lengthen from here to here. Feel the ceiling, your forearm pushing against the ceiling. As you do, hit down through your sitting bones. Good. And then release. Take both arms behind you. Again, get this open. Get down through the sitting bones. As this opens, rotate the inner of the femur bone in and down to help you find your inner heel. Take your chin back, not too much. And then slowly drop your chin and lift your sternum. And as you do this action, go inward, right? So you're up, you're open, and now you drop. Good, and then release. So I want you to get, so two different parts. I'm trying to show some contrasts between your upper body and your legs, but also some contrast between the energy of headstand and the energy of shoulder stand, right? So take both arms up. So this would be, if you and I were upside down and doing an inversion, right? Right, and you're lengthening from here to here, you're keeping space here, you're hitting down through your sitting bones, extending from the inner groin to the inner knee, moving upward with the whole forearm, right? So there's a lot of action here. I'll never forget when I heard a very senior Iyengar teacher say, headstand's a meditation pose. Right? So you're doing all these actions and you're going inward, but from a sense of balance. Good, and then release. So although I can't go upside down, and sometimes like go onto YouTube and watch, try to find like a traditional practitioner who's really good at headstand. Go up into headstand. And if you have seen it in person, headstand is this really delicate, when it's done well, feeling that occurs, right? When you're around someone's really good headstand, right? So there's this balance. So sit up straight and tall, right? So I'm gonna put my hands on my, right? And just for a second, I take my hand and lightly touch the top of my head. Create that reference and use that reference to equalize between the shoulder and each ear. I'm going to make that this length between the shoulder and the ear. In reference, I'm closing my eyes now, although you shouldn't usually close your eyes in headstand, but you can, right? In reference to the top of my head. And I'm going to feel balance. And then I'm going to take my hand down, and I'm going to keep the imprint of my hand on top of my head. That would be the floor. I would lengthen my neck, drop my shoulder blades away, down through my sitting bones, down through my feet, and breathe in a way that does not disrupt the balance. Good. And then release. So now, both arms up. I'm going to throw you off balance, throw me off balance anyway. And so when I'm having not being able to be on the front side of my sitting bones here, right? So I'm falling already into the rabbit hole, right? That's the truth of my disability, right? That's okay. So I'm going to try to keep my hands like this, drop my shoulder blades, keep this length, keep my elbows moving in. But I'm going to try to make sure my sense of balance, so that's when my elbows are going out, because I want balance to lead this action. Soften the inside of my mouth. So there's some crazy instructions. Like your upper palate should go towards the ceiling. As you go down through your sitting bones. Good, and then release. Can anyone tell, like I can, like one shoulder fatigues way faster than the other, even in that position? So now that kind of balance, I want you to contrast with the way, and so you're going inward, but from a delicate sense of balance. Shoulder stand is way more grounded than headstand. And I suspect that's why shoulder stands referred to as the queen of all yoga poses sometimes, whereas headstands thought to be the king of all yoga poses. But if you could only do one or the other, you'd probably do shoulder stand, right? Because it's getting that grounding. So take both arms back behind you. You're getting this open equally, right? So what I think is so interesting about this position, I'm really trying to open here, and I'm doing this in relationship to my sitting bones and to where my feet are. As I really lift my sternum. So what shoulder stand does when it's upside down is it really makes you lift here. Now, when I go to drop my chin down, I am confronted with the center of my being more. Like I am not balanced delicately. I'm inward grounded and happening. So I'm still trying to broaden across the chest, lift the side armpit chest, drop the chin down, but recognizing, and you could close your eyes or open them, how much more inward in a grounded way I am. Good, and then release. Take your arms out, and again, to show the mind the differences, take both arms up, be more gentle this time, right? Go inward, Notice how this inward is very different. I'm not working as hard now. I'm trying to learn what they teach. Right? And then release. Both arms behind me. Lift the chest, side armpit, chest. Drop my chin. Go inward, take a few breaths. Raise your head up. So in Iyengar yoga, rather than teach this bandha that comes out of shoulder stand, right? So this lift and the drop. So everyone do that, right? So I'm pulling myself forward on my sitting bones, dropping my chin. This is going to be one of the 3 foundational bandhas in yoga, right? Right? And you can, this position is being taught in shoulder stand, right? But so feel how your breath, when you're doing this, would be more full on the inside of the vessel, right? Now release and contrast it to this. You can kind of see why you wouldn't learn pranayama up like this, right? That it's important, right? It's maybe at the unchanging core of your pose, but it's light. It's a balance. Good. And then release. Take your arms behind you again. Lift your sternum, drop your chin. This one is more like earth. You want to learn how to practice and then release. Come forward, lift your sternum, drop your chin. You want to have breath. Learn to practice your breathing from a very grounded state in order to maximize its potential. Right? And then release. Now keep your head in neutral. Sit up straight and tall. Notice how, and just take a couple of breaths where the space is open. Take a couple of breaths. Now lift the sternum, drop the chin. Notice the difference. One's not better than the other. They're different. And then raise your head up. And if you're trying to realize the potential of landing, so pranayama gives you energy, right? Like a lot of the really advanced yogis end up not needing to sleep as much when they're doing a lot of pranayama. And you can kind of tell. Lift your sternum, drop your chin. This position, this bandha, so bandhas are defined as like locks of these things, these energy things called nadis, right? This one closes the circuit, right? And the breathing then has a better boundary. So from a yogic perspective, it's going to land better in your nervous system. You're going to store it better, especially here, right? And then release. Come into neutral again. Both are important. But yogis for a long time, if I'm trying to conserve potential of my breath, I'm going to be in this position. At least a little bit more often than you are. So this whole class has been trying to get you to see that like in what is ordinary between this and this, there's a whole different universe. But it all feels ordinary, except that it doesn't, right? It was never ordinary. Little things can make a tremendous difference. That's why I love yoga. That's why I keep coming back to the trough, right? Because there's a whole bunch of people that have been in these places before me, and they've been passing down potential experience, right? And showing me my dimension, right? So take your left arm up, exhale, come over. You're gonna do a twist, take the other arm behind you. So now we're gently, right? So you wanna combine, right? So you're lifting under the collarbones, getting that side lift, but you wanna stay on balance like headstand. Inhale, lift up, exhale, revolve. So you want both. You want the rooted energy of shoulder stand, the balancing energy of headstand, and now your spine is twisting. Good, and then come on back to center. And then here would be more like the delicate balance of headstand, right? Exhale, keeping that, starting to lift the sternum now. Drop the shoulder blades, drop the chin just a little bit. Instead of like this, you wouldn't want to do this twist like this, although you can sometimes, by the way, right? But today we're doing it this way. So you're dropping the chin a little bit. And you're feeling the balance of headstand, the fullness of shoulder stand, and your spine is twisting. Good, and then release. Come on back to center. Quickly find symmetry. Each foot, each sitting bone, each side of the chest, each side of my neck. Right away, it makes me want to de-rotate my scoliosis because it teaches me the realization of symmetry aligns my body. My aligned body doesn't just reveal symmetry. Good, and then Shavasana. So from a balanced place, you're gonna lean back. You're gonna accept support now. So now we go back to that place where you're finding the energy of centering. Now you're on the other side of action. So now you're finding that place and letting it be held up by your chair in some comfort. Keep your mind receptive. Again, I do it by touching my fingertips or particularly on my thumb. Soften my jaw, the inside of my mouth. Release around my temples. Feel the hum that's underneath everything. Let it be supported. Feel your breath. Don't change it. Thank your body. Thank it again. Start to bring yourself back. Slightly deeper inhalation, slightly longer exhalation. When you're ready, open your eyes. Close them again if you need to, and then open them again. So this weekend I occasionally watch stuff online from the World Science Festival. And I watched a whole bunch of physicists talking about the science of nothing. Okay. So it's all the different ways, like, just so you know, a couple hundred years ago, in mathematics, there wasn't even a zero, right? Like the ancient Greeks did math without a concept of zero. Right? And then the empty set entered, and then a whole bunch of other things entered, right? But as they're on the quantum level, as they're measuring, this is not going to be a surprise to any of us, really. They're finding that even in what we think is nothing, in like a vacuum, which we can never make complete, right? There's still quantum fluctuations in a vacuum. That even when you think there's nothing there, there's energy there, right? But it's like in this very basic, such a deep level that we don't usually think about it as energy. And it's like, well, of course there's energy in the quiet. And so they're thinking it's this big revelation that really emptiness, what we call emptiness, is actually a medium. It's not actually empty. Duh. Right? That's why we like hugging each other and feeling space, why you feel different in a crowd than when you feel you're alone. Why social isolation it can make the emptiness for the mind be overwhelming without social reference, right? I mean, it's such a duh. But that inside part where you think you aren't actually has energy. That's what you're studying in asana, in my opinion. How to get deeper in your mind, calm enough to feel the universe bubbling, or the way it happens in emptiness, right? And realizing that that's an energy that brings grace and maybe compassion and nonviolence, when you can strip it down to the studs, right? There's something really powerful. I think that's why people pray, right? I mean, I think there's a whole bunch of energy. That's why people have faith, right? You're getting to the energy that's here that we can't sense with our senses, right? So I don't know, it kind of makes me happy when everything converges, right? Hands together. Namaste. Spirit in me bows the spirit in you.